Hello, welcome back to What's Cooking CGH. I'm Sherry. I am a health and nutrition coach with the CGH Health Foundation, and this is another one of our What's Cooking CGH videos where I show you an easy, healthy recipe. So as you can see, I have my St. Patrick's Day shirt on. So I'm going to be making something that is inspired by St. Patrick's Day in Ireland. And I know corned beef and cabbage get a lot of attention at this time of year, but if you know very much about Ireland, then you know that potatoes are really the star of the show when it comes to Irish food. And the recipe I'm going to demonstrate for you today is one that I called sneaky green potato puffs. I actually did this in my blog a few years ago, and I'll get to the reason for the sneaky green in just a minute. I got a head start on you here is that I have my potatoes already boiling here, and I use a Yukon gold potato. These are one of my favorite potatoes for cooking. Just the color, the pretty yellow color. I like the nice thin skin, and usually when I make mashed potatoes, I don't peel the potatoes. I usually use the skin, and so I did that here. In this recipe, once you mash it up and mix it with the other ingredients, you're not even going to know it's there. I cut my potatoes into about half-inch chunks, so I was just going to show you just about what that looks like. So that was about a half-inch chunk of potato. And I have 1.5 pounds of Yukon Gold potatoes in my pot. I covered them with cold water, brought them to a boil, and they've been in there for about 10 minutes now. The next thing that I am going to do is to add some greens. Now this is about a 5-ounce package of baby spinach. So an Irish dish, one that is really well known, or at least in Ireland, maybe not so much here in the United States, is cold cannon potatoes. And those are basically mashed potatoes that are mixed with kale or cabbage. So this is kind of a riff on that. This is baby spinach, but I am going to take my knife and run it through and give it some quick chops, just to get the greens a little bit smaller pieces here. Now this looks like a lot of spinach, doesn't it? And that's the thing about greens, though, is that when I put this in the pot with the potatoes, they're going to cook down to just almost nothing. You won't even hardly believe how far they cook down. And all I'm going to do is to put the potatoes, or the spinach, right on top of my potatoes. And if I had a little more time, I might have chopped it down just a little bit more. Okay, and then I'm going to turn my heat down a little bit so it's not boiling and put the lid on. It won't take very long for the greens to wilt down in there, maybe about 3 minutes or so. I'll just keep an eye on it while I'm covering some other bases here. So, sneaky green potato puffs. The reason that I called them sneaky green potato puffs, because I thought that this was one way that you could potentially get more greens into your kids or any other people in your household that don't like greens all so much. Dark leafy greens are really something that should be a staple in our diet. They're so good for us. But sometimes you gotta sneak stuff in. Another thing about kids, that there are studies that show that kids will eat more of a food if it has a cute name or if it's a certain shape. They'll at least taste it, and they'll eat more of it rather than just calling it broccoli if you call it, cute little trees or something like that. And so for this recipe, I thought of a few things that you could do. For one thing, if you wanted to shape them in such a way, I'm just going to make little puffs, little haystack kind of things with the potato puffs. But if you wanted to shape them kind of like an egg and have them at Easter time. Then they could be dinosaur eggs. If you wanted to give them a cute name, my nephews love dinosaurs, and so I might call them T-Rex tots or something like that. Emerald dragon bites. I bet some really creative moms out there could come up with a way to turn them into a shamrock shape. I don't have a shamrock cookie cutter, but that would be another thing that you could do with them. As far as potatoes go, they get kind of a bum rap. I know that potatoes are the favorite vegetable in the United States. We eat more potatoes than we eat any other kind of vegetable. The problem is that we tend to eat them fried or in chips, and that's not the healthiest way. Baked potatoes, nothing wrong with that. It's the butter and the sour cream and the bacon and the cheese that we put on. Potatoes are actually pretty good for us. They have a decent amount of vitamin C, plenty of fiber. They've got a lot of potassium. They don't have a whole lot of protein, but the protein that they have is a very high quality protein. They have no fat, no cholesterol. So they are something that we can be including in our diet on a pretty regular basis, and not have to feel guilty about eating potatoes, all right? The other ingredients to have on hand if you want to start getting those ready, because we do have some spices, etc. I'm going to be putting in a couple of tablespoons of Parmesan cheese, a couple of tablespoons of milk, and then because these are potato puffs, I have a couple of tablespoons of cornstarch. I have a teaspoon of onion powder, a half a teaspoon of garlic powder. I have a half a teaspoon of thyme. And I think there are a lot of herbs that you could use here. Thyme is very good with potatoes. But dill, I think the next time I make these, I might try dill. Tarragon is another spice that's really good with potatoes. I also have about a half inch of salt, or half a teaspoon of salt. And maybe an eighth to a quarter teaspoon of black pepper are the spices I'm going to be adding to it. So our spinach is starting to get wilted in here. And I'm going to take this back to the sink. I have a colander ready to go. Okay, let's bring it back here. Now, folks, if I was just making this for myself, I would have just put this right back into the pan to mash it. I didn't let them drain very long because some of that liquid in the spinach and the potatoes is going to help us in the mashing. So let's go ahead and add our other ingredients. We have that couple tablespoons of milk. I have the 2 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese, and then the spices and the cornstarch going in there. Now we have been putting the recipe in the description of the video, and so you can look for it there. And hopefully I can get this all mashed. Might take me a minute or two, so maybe we'll speed things up a bit and I'll come back to you when this is all done. Okay, well that's maybe not the tidiest potato mashing job ever, but I got the job done and we're ready to move on. Now you could eat this just like it is, and I have done that, and that's basically if you were eating potatoes cold cannon, this is where you would stop and you would just serve it as is. But this is a potato puff, so I'm going to take it one step further. And I have a baking sheet with some parchment paper here and my cookie scoop, and this is about 1.5 inch cookie scoop. And so I'm going to start just portioning out my potato puffs onto my cooking sheet. I've got my oven preheated to about 425 degrees. I'll get a few of them on here. Now, if you think that the people in your household, just really wouldn't like the spinach, the texture, in another version of this recipe, you can take cook the potatoes and the spinach separately, and you can blend the spinach with a little bit of the cooking liquid in your high-speed blender and mix it back in. And that way your potato puffs pretty much just look green. And if you want to see what that looks like, you can look for my What's Cooking blog. And I might put a link in the description for how to find that there. So anyway, potato puffs on the baking sheet. They're going to go in the oven at 425 degrees for about 25 minutes. And we'll have to put it in there. Check the time. So those are the sneaky green potato puffs. When they come out, about 25 minutes, they have a nice golden brown top and bottom. You can serve these as an appetizer. They make a great appetizer. You dip them with a little mustard or ketchup or ranch dressing if you wanted to do that. They could make a great side dish for your corned beef and cabbage meal. And let's give them a taste. They do get just a little bit puffy, but they're still nice and tender on the inside. They're very good. So anyway, don't feel like you have to take potatoes out of your diet. This would be a really healthy way to do it. Get some extra greens in your diet. And you can find this video and all of our cooking videos on the CGH website under education. Look for our YouTube channel. And I hope that you'll give them a try and let me know what you think. Thanks.